Thanksgiving at my parents' house always had a seating chart no one admitted existed. My brother Mark sat at the head beside Dad, close enough to refill his wine without being asked. I took the corner near the kitchen doorway, close enough to clear plates, far enough not to matter in conversation. I arrived with a pie. Mark arrived with a story about a client dinner. The house looked good, fresh paint in the hallway, new gutters outside. Dad had mentioned how expensive everything was getting. I'd nodded, already knowing the number because I'd paid it. No one at that table knew that part. And I had stopped expecting them to. Dinner moved the way it always did. Mark talking about promotions and travel, Mom glowing as if she'd personally negotiated his contracts. When I mentioned that work had been steady for me too, Mom smiled thinly. "Steady is safe," she said. "Mark takes risks. That's why he makes us proud." I've heard versions of that sentence my entire life. Mark was bold. I was careful. Mark shined. I stabilized. Stabilizing doesn't photograph well. The comment that broke everything didn't even rise in volume. It came after Dad mentioned property taxes increasing again. Mom sighed, looked directly at me, and said, "Some children are blessings. Some are just burdens you learn to manage. You've always needed more than you give." The table went quiet in that artificial way families master, where everyone pretends something normal has just happened. Mark laughed. Not loudly, just enough. "At least I make this family proud," he said, lifting his glass toward Dad. I felt something inside me shift, not snap, not shatter, just align. I put my fork down carefully. I remember thinking how strange it was that the silverware made more noise than I did. I stood up, no speech formed. No defense lined up. I didn't trust my voice to come out steady, and I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of seeing it shake. I picked up my coat and walked out. No one followed. Outside, the air was sharp and cold. I sat in my car for a long minute, hands on the steering wheel, feeling something unfamiliar, not hurt exactly. Not anger either, it was clarity. For years, I had been the one who noticed when the mortgage payment was short. The one who wired money quietly, when Dad's business had a slow quarter. The one who set up the online account so payments wouldn't lapse when he forgot passwords. 2 years ago, when refinancing became necessary, Dad's credit had taken a hit after a bad investment. Mine hadn't, so we put the mortgage auto-pay through my account. "It's temporary," he'd said, "just until things stabilize." They had stabilized. No one had mentioned moving it back. Every month, I covered the difference without saying a word. Not to buy love. Not to prove anything. Just because losing the house would have crushed Dad. I never framed it as sacrifice. It was responsibility. Apparently, responsibility looked like burden from the outside. After Thanksgiving, I didn't block anyone. I just stopped answering. Calls came the first week, mostly from Mom. Voicemails about being too sensitive. Texts from Mark telling me to grow up. Dad left one message asking if I was okay. I didn't respond to that either. And then, at the end of the month, the automatic draft didn't go through. I had logged into the account the night after Thanksgiving and removed my bank information. No announcement. No warning. I didn't cancel the mortgage. I just stopped carrying it. 3 weeks later, my phone rang again. Dad. I let it ring once before answering. His voice wasn't angry. It was tight, confused. "Hey, I got a notice from the bank. The mortgage payment didn't clear. There must be some mistake with your account." There it was. "Are you okay?" Not, "Can we talk about what happened?" Just logistics. "There's no mistake?" I said. A pause. "What do you mean?" I took my account off the autopay. Silence stretched long enough that I checked to see if the call had dropped. "Why would you do that?" he asked finally, the strain now visible. I leaned back against my couch and stared at the ceiling. "You should ask your pride and joy," I said. My voice surprised me, calm, almost gentle. Another pause. This one heavier. "I don't understand. I've been covering the shortfall for almost 2 years, Dad. Taxes, insurance adjustments. When your business dipped. You said it was temporary." More silence. I imagined him sitting at the kitchen table, the same one where I'd stood up weeks earlier. I didn't realize you were still. He stopped, recalculated. Why didn't you say something? Because every time I spoke at that table, I was a burden. Instead, I said, I didn't think it needed applause. The inhale on the other end was sharp. You're saying Mark doesn't know about this. He doesn't need to, he makes the family proud. It wasn't venom. It was a fact placed gently between us. Dad exhaled slowly. For the first time in my life, I heard uncertainty in his voice when it came to Mark. Dad doesn't have that kind of liquidity right now. I almost smiled. Of course he didn't. Mark invested loudly. He spent visibly. He performed success. But performance and stability are not the same currency. I'm sure he'll figure something out, I said. He takes risks. There it was, the shift. Not dramatic, not explosive. Just undeniable. Dad wasn't talking to a burden. He was talking to the person who had quietly been holding the foundation in place. Can we fix this? He asked after a long moment. The question hung between us. It wasn't about the bank anymore. I'm not putting my account back on, I said. You and Mom need to decide how you want to handle the mortgage. I'll send you the bank contact if you need it. You'd really let us lose the house? I closed my eyes. No, I said. I'm just not the only one responsible for saving it. That was the boundary. Clean. Unemotional. He didn't argue. He didn't apologize either. We'll figure it out, he said. I know you will. When the call ended, I didn't feel victorious. I felt steady. A week later, Mark texted me for the first time since Thanksgiving. Why didn't you tell anyone you were paying? I stared at the message for a long time. Because you never asked what I carried. Because you never looked. I typed back something simpler. It wasn't about telling. It was about doing. He didn't respond. I don't know what conversations happened in that house after that. I know the mortgage eventually got paid, whether through Mark, a loan, or Dad rearranging his finances, I'm not sure. Mom hasn't called. Dad texted once to say, we're handling it. It wasn't an apology, but it was acknowledgement. For the first time in my life, I am not orbiting their approval. I'm not calculating how to prove I'm useful. I'm not wiring money to compensate for words that cut. Being called a burden used to feel like a verdict. Now it feels like a misunderstanding I no longer need to correct. If the house stands, it won't be because I silently held it up. And if it falls, it won't be because I stepped back. Either way, I am no longer the weight they assign me. I am the one who chose when to carry, and when to set it down.